coming after a tough Creighton loss. We're going to get into all of that. But before, make sure you like and subscribe for all your Creighton content. And also make sure that you follow all of our other hosts on the Field of 68 Media Network, doing their things, representing for their alma maters the same way that I'm doing today. This is episode 005, the fifth episode of the Welcome to the J podcast, and we have a very special guest today. He was a all-state high school player in the state of Missouri, scored 38 points in the Class 5 District 11 championship game. His 705 points as a senior is a high school record. He had a career high 21 points versus Tulsa in 2012. He's a member of one MVC regular season championship team for the Jays and two MVC tournament championship team for the boys. And he's most likely the best dresser that we've had on the pod so far. The pride of Branson, Missouri, Mr. Taxed himself, Avery Adams. Dingman, welcome to the pod.
I appreciate it, my man. I appreciate the nice words. I'm fired up to be on the pod.
Yeah.
Whenever I saw that you were going to be hosting the pod a few weeks ago, I was all excited, fired up, and I have been waiting next to my phone for the text to be on it for the last few weeks. I know there have been a few other guests. I'm not going to go into it before me. But if we went a couple more weeks without me being on the pod, then we might have had a problem. So I appreciate it. I'm fired up.
The second I texted you, within 20 seconds, there was an answer back. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I need to be on the podcast. So you're a man of your word, for real, for real.
Live from the box, Branson. I just got back about 2 hours ago. I've been out of town, but right when you texted me, I said, there's no chance I'm not going to be on this podcast.
How's Branson treating you right now, brother? I know it's been kind of a crazy time, but how have you been doing?
It's been a crazy time, but Branson it's a small town. It's kind of spread out, and so the virus hasn't really been too prevalent here. And so we've been working the whole time. Not too much has changed. Restaurant stuff have been open the whole time. So it's been good. I've just been traveling a lot, working a lot. Not too many people my age here in Branson, so that's kind of the challenge. It's just kind of on an island, but I love my job. I'm close to my family, so that's the most important thing to me. So we make it work. How are you doing? What's going on over in Lithuania?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just trying to stay out the way. Our whole team got hit with COVID a few weeks ago. We're finally getting back on track. We played 4 games. Yeah. Oh, I had it bad.
What were your symptoms?
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, brother. I had the worst headache I ever had in my life. I was bedridden for about like 2 days, like only got up to go to the restroom and back. That's it.
Yeah.
I lost all my appetite, probably lost a few pounds too.
Did you have a fever?
A pretty big one, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had it back in July, and it's just weird how it affects people differently. I couldn't smell or taste, but I was just tired for like a week, and it really wasn't bad for me. It's just weird how that works.
That's a symptom that a lot of my teammates got, but I never got that one. So yeah, it hits different people in different ways. We hope everybody out there is staying safe, socially distancing, just being mindful of the people around you and the chances of either distributing the COVID-19 virus or, keeping yourself as safe away from it as possible.
So tell me, where exactly is Lithuania?
In the Baltic region. I don't know.
Is it
I don't know how familiar you are with.
Is it crazy cold?
Yeah. Today, I think it was like minus 13 Fahrenheit today, which is like minus 26, 27 Celsius. So yeah, it's pretty bad up here.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to get into though is today's game. Obviously, tough loss for the boys on the road in Indiana at Hinkle Fieldhouse against the Butler Bulldogs. 6 turnovers in the first half, also foul trouble. They only went 3 for 11 from 3. I know you said that you were able to catch the tail end of the first half and all of the second half. Down the stretch in the first half, what did you see? What do you think made it a little bit difficult for the guys to kind of get on track in the first half?
So I tuned in with like 4 minutes left in the first half, and it just felt like what I could tell, just kind of a muddy first half. They just kind of clogged up the lane and forced our guys to shoot outside, and it just felt like a kind of muddy. Nobody was in a rhythm on either side of the ball. And coming in the second half, obviously Denzel snapped and went crazy, and we were up 10 or 12. And I was sitting there the whole time thinking, like, if we could just scrape out a win, I don't care if it's by 1 point or by 40 points, it's a win without Zeg on the road. That's huge. And so I thought after I think it was 10 or 12 points, 11 points maybe, we went up. I was like, you know what, it's probably going to be game. And then somehow Denzel slowed down. And I don't really know what happened on Butler's side of the ball, but they just kept chipping away. It's not like they ever went on a big run at any point of the game. And they just kind of chipped away and made it a close game. And then dude missed the layup going into overtime. We were fortunate for that, but it would have been a shot clock violation probably. But went into overtime, and I thought we were going to win it because we have so many veteran guys, and I thought it was going to be game then too. And then we just couldn't get it done. So that hurts, obviously. This is one of the first times I've seen our guys play this year, and we're stacked up with talent. A lot of athletes, a lot of talent, shooters, got everything. And so I don't know when Zeg's going to come back. How many more games do you think he's going to miss?
I have no idea. I know that they're really trying to be careful with him. Like a hamstring is one of those things, like you really want to be back at 100% before you give someone the full green light to go. So obviously it's the smarter thing for them to keep him out at the moment, especially if it's something that he's dealt with before. Coach Mack said that he got it in, I think when they were playing Providence a couple games ago. So they want to be careful with it, but you're right. We really saw the importance of Marcus Zegarowski, especially down the stretch, where, like you said, Denzel had it going. I think he ended up with 29 points tonight. He had it going for him. He really kind of put him on his back and carried the load, especially in the beginning of the second half. But once he started slowing down, once he put multiple defenders on him, I think Thompson was sticking him for the rest of the game. Butler did a good job of crowding his space, slowing him down, getting him a little bit frustrated. And there wasn't really that second scorer to really complement what Denzel was doing in the second half today.
And that's something that we've seen over the years playing together back in 2012, 2013 is whenever Doug was rolling and then maybe he hit a cold spell or was sputtering a little bit, it's hard for the rest of the guys to get something going. And that's what I felt like kind of happened was Denzel kind of started sputtering, missing some shots. They kind of focused in on him. And then I felt like nobody else really stepped up and could make anything happen. And that's where I think like having Zeg running high pick and rolls and creating for other people would have been like huge for them. So that was a tough loss. I mean, that's obviously a tough place to play. And road games are hard. And
road games are difficult, bro. People don't understand how hard it is to win on the road for real. Like people don't get it.
And most people, Jay, most people think like, oh, the crowd and like the momentum in that is a huge thing, which it is. But like from my perspective, and you can probably attest to this too, back in the day, is you're traveling the day before, you're out of your normal routine, you're sleeping in a hotel. Your shoot around varies the day before. It's like a whole different, you're in a different town, different city. You probably didn't sleep as good in a hotel bed as you would at your bed. It's like the stuff outside of the court makes a huge difference to me as well.
Yeah. And the other part is like no crowd this year is also something that the guys are still getting used to.
Yeah.
I had Damian Jefferson on the pod on episode 4. If you guys have a chance, go check that one out too. It was a really cool conversation. We talked about him playing in front of no crowd, and there's an adjustment period for those guys, not only at home but obviously on the road too, because when Butler keeps chipping away, you're expecting this huge roar from the crowd, and some guys love it, some guys are intimidated by it. These guys really, it's a totally different field because like that energy that you get off the crowd on the road too is real, and you could really help. It could really help surge a team that is like slowly making that climb down to help them climb back up again. So I saw that things like that are definitely gonna come into effect as the season goes on. Like you mentioned, it was a tough road loss. Obviously, it's a disappointing one. I'm sure Coach Mack and the staff are disappointed they couldn't pull this one out, but it's very difficult to win on the road, especially in the Big East.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I had fun watching it. Kick it back. I thought it was a really good game. Obviously it would have been more fun to do this pod with a win, but we're still going to have fun anyway. So here's a question I got for you. You've watched the Jays a lot more than I have. So what does this squad have to do in order to make a run in the tournament this year? Because we went to 3 tournaments. We won the first game, lost the second game, and we had some explosive teams, some firepower. What do these guys have to do in order to make a run? Because granted, we did get tough draws first and second year. We had North Carolina and Duke second round. We thought we had a good matchup with Baylor second round junior year, your senior year. We ended up being wrong. But what do these guys have to do in order to go deep? Because a lot of people think we could be a Sweet 16, Final Four type team.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people too. I have full confidence. Obviously, I think Coach Mack is one of the best coaches in Division I basketball. I've been saying that for the longest. Obviously, I'm very biased in my
Yeah.
opinion, but I think obviously, like success starts at the top, and Coach Mack is more than capable of bringing the team past the first weekend, which we haven't been able to do yet. You mentioned the draw. The draw is always something that that really matters because matchup matters. And unlike the NBA playoffs where it's like a 7 game series, this is like one day, one game, anything can happen.
Crazy.
So
Yep.
the draw is very important. You like you mentioned with us, like we beat Alabama, lose to North Carolina, beat Cincinnati, lose to Duke, beat Louisiana Lafayette, lose to Baylor in San Antonio, in Texas where Baylor's from. So
Yep.
uh, that matters a ton. But as far as the team is concerned, I think this is a really deep team. They showed it last week in their win against St. John's. No Marcus Zagorowski. That was the first time that happened. They had 6 guys in double-digit scoring, able to kind of cruise their way through that game. Today, obviously, is a different story, playing on the road, a different kind of environment. They don't end up pulling this one out, but this is a really deep team, a really talented team, a really athletic team, and a team that I think has really bought into, you know, equal opportunity offense where on any given
Yeah.
night anybody could shine. Tonight was Denzel's night to shine. He ended up with 29 points. Uh, it could be Damian Jefferson. We spoke to him about that on this week's pod. It could be obviously when Marcus Zagorowski is going to be a big part of that. He's the Big East preseason player of the year. And then a very tough game for Mitch tonight. He didn't
Yeah.
make a three, only scored 2 points, but we all know how dangerous Mitch could be. So I have very high hopes for this team. I don't want to jinx them. Knock on wood. That's behind
Yeah.
this
I got some wood right here too.
iPad here. Yeah, but
The thing about it with guys like Mitch and guys like Ethan is even if they're not scoring, a lot of times they're impacting the game because you have to be holding their hand. It opens up the lane for guys to get to the rack and do other things like that. Because if Ethan didn't have a good game, they got somebody holding his hand just standing out there, and that opens up the lane for anybody else.
this is why I needed you on the pod because you have such a different way of looking at things. It's one of the things I've always appreciated about you, brother. I've used it as, or I've explained it as the gravity that a guy like Ethan or a guy like Mitch creates on the court because of they have their own gravity pull. A lot of defenders are really attached to them, and it opens up the lane for everyone. You just
Yeah.
called it holding someone's
Holding their hand. Yeah, that's what it is. Especially like with Ethan, he's the best shooter I've ever played with or seen. I'll take him against anybody. I don't know. I'm not going to go there right now, but yeah, you just got to, and we saw that too after his Villanova performance, 27 points, hit like nine threes. He probably dribbled the ball like once, and then you saw games after that, guys just standing next to him, not leaving him.
Right.
But then that opens up the floor for guys like Chat and you and whoever else, Grant. So that's another thing is even if, for people watching this that watch the game and don't quite, they think Mitch just had a bad game. Sometimes that he is effective even if he's not scoring.
Right. Because people have to hold his hand, obviously.
Here, I've got to mention something. I wish people would have seen us before we went live because it just completely sums up our relationship. We haven't seen each other in probably a year and a half because
a year and a bit.
get down across the border. It was at Brozark's a year and a half ago. And we hop on the live, or no, we hop on the preview. It's not live yet. And we just both start laughing. And we hadn't even said anything. And that completely sums up our relationship. I don't care if we hadn't seen each other in a week or if we hadn't seen each other in like 10 years. If we walk in a room together, we're going to be laughing for the next like 2 hours. And so that's why I was so fired up about this podcast.
That is the realest thing. That is the realest thing you've ever said. Because that's honestly what the reaction was. The second I saw your face, I just started laughing, just started dying. And, obviously you and I, we've been really good friends since we became teammates. We've kept that relationship going. I'm a pro now. You're traveling all over the world selling some dope gear. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but I feel like a lot of us have that relationship as well. Like, I know you share that relationship with me, but I'm pretty sure you share that with Austin Chapman. I'm sure you share that with Will Archino, whoever that you're going to see next. As soon as you see him, it's like good vibes all around immediately.
It's like nothing's changed. And that's how you know it's a good homie. You walk in the room and nothing's changed, which is awesome. And I know you and Doug touched on the Bahamas trip a little bit, so I won't really touch on it much. But that was like, basketball aside, I don't think we got a whole lot out of it basketball-wise because we were beating these local teams by like 30 every game. But I think what we got out of it was we had Nevin, Jeff, myself, Austin, new on the team, had seniors graduating. It was a whole new mix of people, and we had an absolute blast for like a week.
Right.
It was like the
Right.
most fun week ever, and we just became brothers after that. And so that's like
Oh,
the cool part about what we had that I don't think a lot of teams have, is that we were all just like best friends, and we still are, which is like one of the coolest things for me.
it set it all up. It was really the stepping stone into everything that happened after that. We're gonna get into all of that in a little bit. You're you're getting ahead of things a little bit. Let me set it up, Avery.
There
We'll
we go.
definitely have that conversation. Before we get off the game that we just watched, though, obviously you played, at that 2-3 spot. We spoke about Denzel a lot, but he scored in various different ways. He scored on the post up, in the mid range, attacking the basket off the dribble, obviously catch and shoot threes. I think he even hit a pull up three. What
Yep.
was, obviously you played that spot too, so that's why I'm asking you. What was impressive about his performance tonight, just in different type of ways that he was getting his buckets?
And I haven't seen him play a lot, but what I liked is when he got the ball in like the mid to low post, because dudes can't guard him because he's so big and physical. I mean, the dude
Yeah.
is jacked. He's like, what, 6'5", 225, something like that. He's huge, and he's either going to get fouled or lay it up just about every time. And then once he gets that rolling, it's like it opened up the three. I don't know what his percentages are in the year shooting from three, but they were falling today. But it just opened up the rest of his game. I thought it was really cool how late in the first half and then early in the second half, he got the rock kind of at the mid post and just had a chance to like jab and get to the rack, either get fouled or get a bucket.
All right, let's get into your career at Creighton a little bit. This is one of my favorite questions to ask all the members who have showed up on the pod so far. I'm sure you had a bunch of different schools recruiting you. You were a superstar high school player. Why did you choose Creighton, and what were some of the other schools that you were thinking about going to?
So I got recruited by Colorado, Iowa State when Mac was at Iowa State, TCU, Missouri State, just about all the Missouri Valley schools, Wichita State, and a handful of other ones. And so I just started going on a few visits. Missouri State was in my backyard. It was like 45 minutes away. So I was really interested in going there. And then Lutz started calling me. And so I didn't know anything about Creighton at the time. I started getting the letters from them. Started talking to Lutz. Like, he would call me at night and we would just talk for like an hour randomly, like whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go visit these guys. I'm going to see what these cats are about. And so I go on a trip up there knowing nothing about Nebraska. And I get there. My recruiting visit's not quite as cool as Austin's. I know he was telling some crazy stories about his recruiting visit.
That story's in the past. If you want to see
Yeah.
that story, go back to episode 3. All right, everybody, go
Yeah,
back to episode 3.
So I didn't have quite as eventful of a visit, but it was like Doug. You weren't there. It was in the summer. It was like Doug and Grant and Wayne and maybe Daryl. And we had a good time. And what I didn't realize about Creighton is just the size of the town, how nice the city was. And the thing that really drew me in was, at the time, the Quest Center. And it'll always be the Quest in my heart. I know you too. And so that was the cool part to me, how many fans came to the game. And that was the main draw for me, is that I thought we had an opportunity to be good. I didn't know we would be as good as we were. But just the amount of fans that came to the games was the number one draw. And so I ended up picking Creighton over, it came down to Missouri State and TCU. And so I didn't even go on those visits. I went to Creighton and I was sold. I was like, this is the place for me. I got along well with Doug and Grant at the time. And Mac took me all around campus. We did the whole thing. It was in the summer, so not many people were here. And history ever since. It's weird to think about if I would have gone to a different school and you think about the same thing. I wouldn't have met all the same guys, all my same brothers, but it's awesome. I'm so thankful that I landed on Creighton, and it was an unbelievable experience.
You already mentioned the recruiting class of you, Austin, Jeff, and Nevin. That was Coach Mac's actually first recruiting class at CU, so you're an honorable member of that class. What was it about those 3 other guys and you, that relationship that you guys built obviously early on? You guys were hanging out all the time together. Talk about and I know you're still friends with all those guys right now. So talk about that relationship and how it blossomed into what it is today.
It's something, I don't know if people understand that just watched us and supported us, is that we literally did everything together. So from the moment we wake up in the summer, it's like, okay, we're going to weights, then we're going to go do our class. Then we're going to go play pickup. Then we're going to go team workout, individual workout. We're going to go eat, and then we're going to hang out, do whatever. And so we were the only ones on campus basically. And so during the summertime, that's how it blossomed. Is we were together 24/7 for 2.5 months. We had the Bahamas trip, and we shared. I think we were actually living in Kennefic, and our rooms were right next to each other. So us 4 Jeff, Nevin, Austin, and myself became super tight immediately. And we've been tight ever since. I keep up with Austin quite a bit, Jeff a decent amount, and then not as much Nev. But those guys are awesome. We had a heck of a recruiting class. We had a blast in the summers. We had so much fun. Love those guys. They'll always be my brothers. But even just going through the 4 years, like the amount of time we spent together, we were on campus the whole summer. We got a couple weeks in August, and then we're back for September whenever school started. But we literally wake up, go to weights, go to class. We like literally eat together. We all room together. We travel together. Everything was to get study hall. We were all in the same room in study hall. And so just the bond that we built is something special that I think that I feel like I'm fortunate to have had that opportunity with you guys.
I'm very thankful of you guys because once I moved out of Swanson, moved to Opus, and I'm in the psychology department, so all my classes were way up on campus, right by where those dorms are. You guys always say, "Yo, Jay, whenever you need to take a nap, whenever you need to rest, just hop into the room." So I think your bed became like the bed. I was like, okay, no one's gonna be in here. I'm just gonna take a nap here for an hour, and that door was always open.
Yeah.
The people at the front desk would always let me in. So shouts out to you guys for always allowing an open door policy to that room in Swanson for sure.
For sure.
So, like I said before, you were a big time high school player. I already brought up your single season record. I think it's still up right now, is it not?
What is it?
The 705 points your senior year. I think it's the most points
It
of
is.
your
Yeah,
high.
at Branson, it is.
Big
And then,
time.
I had 46 my junior year, which was a record at the time. I think it still is for points in a game. So it's funny because like people don't really know like the difference in my high school and college careers are like night and day. Like at Branson, I was like a bucket getter. Like that's all I did is score. I shot, 25 times, 20 times. Like I shot a ton, and our coach would put me on the worst defender on the other team, and I would camp out in the paint and not play defense to save it all for offense. I would just camp in the paint. I knew my guy couldn't shoot, and so when I get to Creighton, it's like, oh my God, like I have to actually play help side defense, ranger drill, stuff like that. And it was a whole different experience. And that's ultimately what I got called out to do, is play defense at Creighton. And that's like not anything, like my whole life I was a scorer. And so that was like a huge transition for me. And like I struggled with it for a long time, but I ended up picking up on it pretty good. But yeah, that's kind of the thing, is just I went from scoring to being called on basically to hit open threes, rebound, play defense, know my role, which, I was fine with. I contributed. But that's just kind of where I was.
I love that I don't even have to ask you the question. Like you're literally going into everything that I was about to ask you. The question was literally going from a big time scorer in high school to being asked to play a role, mainly
It's
a
hard.
defensive role.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, your mindset going through that. It's a tough switch, and trust me, I understand that. I kind of lived through it as well. It's a tough switch to having the ball in your hands at all times, where even like you mentioned, like your high school coach hid you on defense, and then now Coach Mack is really throwing you in a fire, saying, "Hey, if you want to get on the court, you're gonna have to do these things defensively." So, what was your mindset? What was kind of like the difference in your approach to the game once you realized that's what I need to do to get on the floor?
It was difficult, but I feel like I embraced it well because I ended up turning into a pretty good on-ball defender. I can go into this too. Like whenever we were on the court together, both of us, we complemented each other very well because your strength on defense was chasing the Ben Simons of the world, the Colt Ryans off of screens. You were super good at staying on their hip, chasing off screens. I wasn't good at that. I was gassed. I was like, I don't want to do that. And so I was good at guarding the Ravante Rice ISO type guys. So whenever we switched from the Valley to the Big East, defensively for me, I thought it was an easier transition because in the Valley, you're constantly chasing guys off screens. And then you get to the Big East and there's a little bit more ISO, a little bit more one-on-one. And I felt more comfortable in those situations. But it was a really hard transition. And coming off the bench is something that I had never done in my entire life. And I did it for most of my career at Creighton, my first 2 years. And then I started 8 games my junior year when Grant was hurt.
Yeah.
And then in Big East play. And then I think senior year, about half the games, maybe 60% of the games I started. But coming off the bench is kind of what I did. And people don't realize how hard that is. And you don't really have experience in college with that because you started all 4 years, correct? You're all 4 years.
The first half of my freshman year, I came off the bench. I actually came off the bench enough in Valley play to make all bench team. So
I
think it was like my first start was against like Indiana State. halfway through that valley
Yeah.
stretch, and then I just kind of never looked back after that.
And it's tough. And it was tough for me because it's one of those things we would warm up for hour and a half before the game,
Yeah.
and then we tip off and you could be sitting on the bench over there just getting ice cold for 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. And then you get thrown in the fire and be expected to be warmed up against the guy that's been in the game for 15, 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And that's something I struggled with, honestly, throughout my whole career coming off the bench was just the fact from going from I'm ready to play right now to sitting on the bench for who knows how long and getting ice cold. And that's a really, really challenging thing, especially whenever you catch the rock and you try to put up a three as quick as you can. That was my philosophy my first 2 years. I said, I'm going to put up a three as quick as I can when I get in the game my first 2 years, because it just everything goes away after that. Your pregame jitters, your legs get under you. You just take a shot. If it goes in, great. If it doesn't, then you're 10 times more relaxed. And so that's kind of how I felt. But yeah, it was challenging. It was super challenging, and everybody that plays Division I basketball at the level we did,
Yeah.
they were the best player on their high school team or second best player. They were the stud, the
Mhm.
superstar. And so you go from that to college basketball where you're really, really talented and good, but you have to change roles and come off the bench. I think it's challenging for a lot of guys out there. That's why I have so much respect for anybody that comes off the bench.
One of my favorite games that I saw you play was obviously freshman year against Iowa. You came off the bench and
That's the
you
picture you put
lit
up. That's the
that.
picture
That
on
is, I was just about to
Instagram you
say
put
that's
up. Yeah,
the
yeah,
picture on Twitter that I put up. So I
Arm
know
sleeve
that you're
on.
going to be on the pod. I think that was the first time that I was like, man, this kid can actually really, really shoot. Obviously, you and we spent plenty hours in the gym shooting together, rebounding for one another after practices, getting some extra shots up. But I think that was the first game. I think it might have been like our third game of that year too.
Yeah,
And it was in Des Moines against Iowa.
soaking.
At Man, you came out
It
on
was Wells Fargo. It
fire.
was Wells
It was
Fargo. It
Wells
was at
Fargo
Wells Fargo.
Arena.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that feeling like? It's your freshman year, like in a big time environment. Half of the crowd is in yellow, the other half is in blue. Obviously, you know how much this game means to us because when we're in the Valley, like let's make no bones about it, a lot of big time schools, a lot of Power Five schools were avoiding playing a school like us because they understood they had a
Yeah,
big chance of getting upset. So
right.
you getting into that game as a freshman, you're lighting up the world. What was that feeling like for you? Were you like, damn,
I
I'm
was on
I'm
top of the
here, like
world.
I belong?
It was so cool. Yeah, it was so cool. And that was kind of at the point that even all of us on the team, we didn't know how good we were going to be. It was still early in the season. It was your sophomore year, my freshman year. And we didn't quite know how good we were going to be. So we weren't ranked, I don't think. And we were just out there like trying to make the most of it. And then we come out there and slap Iowa, like absolutely slap them. And I don't think any of us saw it coming. I thought we were talented and we had a good shot, but we're up by like 30, like early
Right.
in the second half. And all my shots were fine. I think I hit all 4 threes in the first half, and then a couple free throws in the second half. But it was so fun. That was one of my most memorable games because it was early, first few games. We
Yeah.
played this big environment, Des Moines neutral site, and we come out and just smack them. And I think that was kind of the turning point where we look around and we're like, "Hey, we're legit. Like we have
Yeah,
a
we
chance.
got we got
We got a
something
chance
cooking
to,
here.
yeah, we got something going." So that was epic. And then we rode back on the bus, I think, and I think this is like the most random team meal we ever had. I think Mac like got off and went and got like a bunch of like cheeseburgers at McDonald's and brought them back
Oh,
on
that's
the
right, on the
on the bus.
drive
You
back.
remember
Yeah.
that? It was the
Yeah.
weirdest thing ever. We had
We
never done
stopped
it
in
ever
West
and
Des
never
Moines
did
on
it
the
again.
right back.
Yeah, yeah. And then he picked up like a bunch of like double cheeseburgers and brought them on the bus, and we
Yeah.
drove back a couple hours. And it was like the most random. Like we never did that again, like in
Yeah.
the 4 years. But it was all good
Man,
times.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, he sure did stop by that McDonald's on the way out of Des Moines, and
I haven't thought about that ever since.
that's crazy. And especially Coach Mack, he's so particular about, obviously eating healthy and all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. We never did that ever again.
We never did that. And then also another funny thing that we did was we flew everywhere. We would fly on the private planes. Obviously, we would fly to
Mhm.
was it Cedar Falls? Cedar,
Yeah,
we play
Cedar
UNI.
Rapids, you and I.
And it was literally a
Yeah.
30-minute flight, and it was like a 3-hour bus ride. We would like literally ascend and descend, and we were there. And so it was like, okay, we fly everywhere. And then I think it's like our maybe freshman year, we're playing New Year's Eve at
Oh
Wichita
yeah, at
State.
Wichita
And
State.
and we
Yep,
ended
and
up
we
busing. So
won.
we bust down there and we're looking around. We're like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are we taking
Yeah.
a bus 5.5, 6 hours? Like, this is terrible. Like, what are we doing? And then we win the game, whatever. We're driving back, and then it hits us, and we're like, wait a second, we're not going to get back to Omaha until like 2:30 in the morning. They didn't want us going out. You know what I'm saying? And I guess they didn't want us going out because they knew us, and they said if these guys get a win on New Year's Eve and we get back to Omaha at a reasonable time, these guys are going to be out, as Lou would say, out, bro. They were out. So
the other time that I think it was a strategic one was obviously my senior year, your junior year, when we beat Marquette. First Big East game ever. We beat Marquette. The crowd is going crazy. Sweet Caroline is being chanted all across CenturyLink Center at the time.
One of my favorite
We get
memories.
back to the locker room, and Coach Beck is like, yeah, so we got a hotel for you guys out in West Omaha. You guys need to report by whatever time it was, by midnight or whatever.
It was 12:30.
Yeah.
And so we went to the J. At least I did. I went to the J with my friends that were in town. I took a shot with them at midnight, and then I rode with somebody out there to, I forgot what hotel it was, but we rode out there and we had to stay the night. We were all so salty about that. We were like, we all had friends and family in town, and we were like, come on, guys. You know what I'm saying? I get
here. You miss this spot right here, don't you?
I do. And the welcome to the J, whenever I saw that name, I was like, that is the perfect name for this podcast. But at the same time, we can't go into too many details about the J. You know, RIP. It was a phenomenal institution, a phenomenal facility. They took care of us. It was great, but we won't go into all the details.
So many good memories with you, Abe. And when we see each other in the summertime, like you said in the top of the broadcast, this is the first time I've seen each other in person in like a year and a half, obviously due to COVID and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have a funny statement that you say to me every time that you see me. You always say, Jay,
oh, no, what is it?
You always say, Jay, it always feels like you're still a sophomore and I'm still a freshman. Why do you feel that way about, like, obviously, I mean, that's when I first met you and all that stuff. That's when the friendship started blossoming. But why is it that you always feel the need to remind me that, like, I'm still a sophomore and you're still a freshman?
Jahenns, look how funny this is. I jotted down a couple notes of things that I wanted to bring up to you on this podcast, and look, it was at the very top of the list.
Jahenns is the sophomore.
Seriously, that was the first thing I wrote down before. I wanted to bring up a few things with you, and that is literally like the top of the list. And the reason is because my freshman year, you were the guy that was like nice enough to take us all under their wing, and you had 1 year under your belt with experience. And
who's this little guy? That little Moosey?
This is my little son, Moose. He's 12 weeks old. He's the man. He's walking around. But anyway, you're the nice guy.
Welcome to the J, Moose. Welcome to the J.
Welcome to the J, little boy. So you literally like taught us all the secrets and like what to expect out of class and practice and this and that and where to go and like, you know, places in Omaha. And so I always laugh about it because you were the sophomore and I was the freshman. So you were always hanging out with us. The upperclassmen weren't, and you were like always in the car with us, going to eat with us, doing this and that. And so ever since then, I've always just viewed you as the sophomore and I'm the freshman. And I think you feel the same way though.
I do. Right? Well, whenever you say it to me, it brings me back to that time, and it was a really good time. Like legitimately, I didn't know too much, but what I knew I wanted to share with the new guys coming in. And that's just kind of the phrasing that you have on it. And I love it. It makes me happy. It makes me think about all these good memories that we've had over the years. I wanted to get into, obviously, like going back and playing against Missouri State when we were in the Valley. I remember that week that you knew that Missouri State was coming up on the schedule, you were always so geeked. You were always so excited to go back home and play in that gym. I wanted to ask if that was your favorite road game to play in, or is there another spot in the Valley or in the Big East that you really like playing on the road?
That's tough. It was always fun playing at Missouri State because it's back home for me. I had a ton of friends and family there at the game. It was always fun, and they really wanted me to go there, the coaching staff and the city of Springfield. So that was a fun one. I think as far as other fun road games, San Diego State freshman year was insane. That was a lot of fun.
That was crazy.
Playing at the Garden was always
when
amazing.
He was on the pod too.
They were good. I mean, the team was good, but the fans were good too. The student section, they were roasting me.
They were great.
Down, like the night before we left there, I was at the Cheesecake Factory and I was leaving, and the server like wrote her number down on a napkin and like gave it to me. The server at the restaurant, and so I took a picture of it, and like that was when social media was like at its infancy. And
Yeah.
so we didn't really know like what to put on, what
You
to
didn't
not.
think too much of it. Yeah, you
Tweeted
thought it
it.
would be
I
funny.
tweeted it and was like, oh well, whatever. Like thought it'd be funny. And then I get there and they have a big poster like with the girl's name and like all this stuff about that like printed off. So they did a good job with that. And I thought that was one of the tougher places to play along with Wichita. I think Wichita was fun because we would get there like we'd go out there an hour and a half before warmups, and they would have the tunnel that we walked out to warmups an hour and a half early. They would have the students just leaning over, screaming at you, yelling at you.
Yeah.
I thought Wichita was fun, and then the Garden was awesome, obviously too. When we play St. John's at the Garden, that was, I mean, it's the Mecca. So like anytime, it didn't matter who you play. That's one of the best places.
Nothing tops the Garden in my opinion, but I mean, I do remember San Diego State when they started yelling, "I believe that we would win." I've always heard about that chant,
That was
obviously
cool.
growing up in Canada and stuff like that, but to actually experience a real big student section yelling that, and they were jumping up and down, and you could feel the gym shake because remember it was kind of like an underground gym, right? It wasn't built
Yeah,
up,
you
it
walk
was
in and
built
it drops
down.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it was just kind of like an echo chamber, and you could hear like the feet rattling, the bleachers bouncing up and down. So yeah, that
That was
was
so cool. That was cool. I forgot about that. I believe that we will win, and they were jumping
yeah,
up. Yeah, that was one of the coolest experiences for
it
sure.
was
It's
literally
it's
right
hard for me
after
to imagine
that.
the guys.
No, no, go ahead, go
It's
ahead.
hard for me to. It's hard for me to imagine the guys playing now without fans or minimal fans, just because
Mhm.
we scrimmaged Iowa State. Those got like scrimmage at the C Link with nobody in there, and it was just like it was terrible. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to like get yourself all fired up for that. And so like I feel for those guys, especially the guys last year that got the tournament got canceled because of COVID. I mean, what were we ranked last year? 7 or something at the Big East tournament? Were we
I
7?
believe no, no, no. They were no, they had won the regular season championship, so they were one. They were
No,
playing.
I'm talking like in the country.
Oh, I'd have to go back and look at those
I think they were
rankings,
7, and
but
so they were going to get. I mean, the good chance they win the tournament. If not, then they're going to be like a 2-3 seed in March Madness. Like my heart goes out to those guys. That's horrible. Like I can't imagine going through the whole season grinding, and then all of a sudden they say no March Madness. You can't do
yeah.
that. That's tough.
I thought last year was their best chance to make it past that first weekend, and
Yeah,
first time in current history. Like we're still chasing that elusive Sweet 16, Elite Eight type of run. I'm
as crazy
convinced that they can get
as
it this year, but it baffles me with all the great teams that we've had. That we haven't been able to make it past that first weekend. I think about like Kyle Korver
yeah,
teams, Nate Funk, Anthony Tolliver, like all the
yeah.
legends that you hear about that we couldn't make it past. That
Doug
first weekend is
McDermott.
kind of weird. Obviously, Doug. I didn't want to bring
Doug
it up because we were
McDermott.
a part of that, bro. We were a part of that.
I know, but
Uh,
so the year that I thought we had the best chance, obviously we know we're stacked up freshman or your sophomore year against North Carolina when they were stacked. My sophomore year we're stacked up against Duke. It's like that's
yeah,
and then junior year we have Lafayette, Alfred Payton. We get the win. We're going into Baylor sitting there like, hey, we're gonna make these guys shoot over us. Like
right.
we're gonna go under ball screens. We're gonna go under down screens. We're gonna make them shoot over us and live with the results.
Mhm.
And they splashed every single three
Everything.
they shot. And if we would have played them on any other night, it would have been a different outcome. Like these guys were just splashing threes, and it was the first time. Like Jahenns, we had always had the like we ran and gunned. We didn't really have like the best defense. We were good enough on defense, but we outscored people. And Mac never really acknowledged that at all. But I remember sitting in film in where were we? San Antonio, and we were playing
Mhm.
Baylor the next night. And I was dying at this because Mac was like, we were going through all the film, how we're going under the screens, under the ball screens, under the down screens, make them shoot over us. And he's like, shoot, if they make the shot, we're going to go down and score more than them. We're going to go down and shoot threes and score more than them. And he said that for the first time in San Antonio. And it was true. But at the same time, they just hit every shot and
Mhm.
we got out athleted by other athletes.
We did to get out athleted by other athletes that night,
We
for
did.
sure.
They were huge.
All right, so Avery, you and Ricky Krecklow come up with one of my favorite times of the year. We dubbed it Brozarks. You mentioned it earlier in the podcast. I want you to kind of explain like your first thought. I think there's been like 5 Brozarks. I've been a part of 4 of them.
Yeah.
Talk about Brozarks, like where you guys got that idea from and how year by year it's grown into what we all, as former players, friends of each other, is something that we all look forward to every single summer.
So it was something that I think it was a year or two after we graduated. And it was one of those things that in high school and college, like you don't have to put in any effort to be around your friends 24/7. Like high school, it happens. College, we're around, whether we like it or not, we're around each other all the time. And then you graduate college, and I think a year had passed, and it was like, wait a second, we're all going our different directions. I'm in
Where are
Brandon.
these
You're who
cats?
knows where. Where are these cats? You're who knows where. And so we're sitting there and we're like, hey, let's get all the boys back and let's like make a weekend with everybody in the same room. And so I think it was 2 years after I graduated, maybe 3 years after you graduated, that we say, okay, we're going to go up to Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, a couple hours north of Branson, and we're going to get as many of the boys back as we can. And I think it started out like it was you, Ricky, Big Swag,
Yeah,
TC,
Will,
myself. It
Tyler
was small. It
Clement.
was like 5 of us.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like
It was like
six
5.
of us. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. And then the next year it grew a little bit, and the next year it grew a little bit, and then 2 years ago we had like 20 guys there.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like euphoria to me. It's like it's like the best weekend of the year because, like we talked about earlier on the pod, we're all such good friends, and we don't see each other but once or twice a year, and that's it if we're lucky. And so we get together up at Ricky Kreklow's parents' lake house, and we just have a blast. And it's something that we have to keep going forever, just because you just realize how like short life is and how much you love those around you, and life's about relationships. And so that's what it taught me. And so I look forward to that every year. I was super bummed I couldn't do it. It's crazy I haven't seen you in a year and a half, but like talking to you right now, it's like, dude, I feel like I saw you like last
Nothing's
week.
changed. Yeah, nothing's changed.
Yeah, so that's
It's crazy to me because like Ricky is a guy I didn't play with. He transferred in
yeah,
after I graduated, but it's just like that Creighton family is real because obviously I come back to Omaha, I train in the summertime. I met Ricky on his visit. I had played against
yeah,
him a couple of times when he was at Cal, right? So I knew of the guy, didn't know I was gonna grow to be such good friends with him even to this day. And then
uh-huh,
you guys have this thing where like we're at a lake house for a weekend and we could chill on the dock, we could go swim in the lake, all that stuff, ride the jet skis
yeah,
and everything. Like it's really like kind of therapeutic because like you mentioned, I'm overseas, a bunch of other guys overseas. Obviously Doug is in the NBA. Other guys who aren't playing anymore are working their 9 to 5s.
yeah,
They're traveling. They're doing whatever. Some
yeah,
guys have family. But it's the one weekend where the boys could be boys and we could just go hang out, chill, talk, catch up. We have a session called Real Talk where we just go and express everything that's been on our minds for the whole year.
drink a
And it's
million beers and just have a good
yeah,
time, right? Go to
yeah,
Shady Gators. It's literally the best weekend ever, and I hope that it
yeah.
happens next year. But I hope we do some. I think at some point we'll outgrow Ricky's Lake
The
House.
lake
We'll have to
house,
do
yeah,
something somewhere else. Yeah, we'll have to.
yeah,
But every year we have to make it a point because that's something else I've learned is like how intentional you have to be to keep up with people that you care about after
right.
high school, college, because everybody's so busy. It's like you have to put in like effort every week, every month in order to like stay in touch with guys like you and Doug and Will and Austin and those guys.
When I talk to you, bro, it's like I'm still the sophomore and you're still the freshman. That's all that
I
it
know,
is.
I love it, man. This is so great.
So I love what you're doing now. You tried to play pro basketball overseas for 1 year after college. You weren't a fan of your experience. You and I have had plenty of conversations about that. But what you're doing now currently is you're working for the company that your father built. I don't want to call you a traveling salesman. I know you do much more than that, but I mean, you
Yeah,
mentioned already that you do a bunch of traveling. You test out products, you test out, different fabrics and stuff like that that goes into the designs of what you and your father produce. Talk about what it's been like kind of growing your father's company. You guys have expanded a bunch in the last couple of years from the things that you've told me. Talk about like what that experience is
sure.
like, and also, the team dynamics that you were in before, obviously playing for CU, how that's affected you as a 9 to 5 guy who goes and who have to have conference meetings and talk to a bunch of people and get everybody on the same page.
For sure. No, whenever I finished up at Creighton, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't going to play basketball anymore. So I started applying for jobs everywhere. And I was highly sought after because Creighton's a good school and because companies like athletes. They like people that have been a part of a team already and are competitive and have a work ethic. And so I learned that from that. That's highly sought after. And ultimately, I decided, I had the opportunity to play in Europe, so I'm going to do that for a season. I didn't know how long I was going to do it, but I said I have to
Mhm.
explore that opportunity. And so I did it for a year. I got hurt. I didn't have the best year because we didn't even have a trainer over there. I mean, I
Yeah.
cranked my ankle and I literally was
Some
like
spots
limping
are
around trying
shady,
to
bro.
play.
Some spots are so
It was
shady.
it was
Like,
shady. They stopped
yeah,
paying us. I mean, this could be a whole segment. We could talk like an hour about this. It was crazy experience, but it was
yeah.
cool. And I'm glad I did it. I traveled all over Europe. But then I came back on like a Saturday in March, and my dad's like, "Hey, I got a job opening as a salesman in the Texas territory. You want to do that?" I was like, "Okay, good. Like, bet, let's do it." And so I got back on a Saturday from being Avery Dingman, the basketball player, my entire life, to now no longer a basketball player, going into the real world on a Monday. So I literally took Sunday off, went into work on Monday, and then that just started the whole. That was almost 5 years ago now, which is crazy to think about.
Time
But
flies.
it's been good. I think I've got the coolest job ever. I get to design shoes and sell shoes, travel all over. We've got a cool family business. My mom, dad, brother, sister are all involved. So it's been awesome. And obviously the team aspect applies to every single business, because rather than looking at your business as individuals, we're all a team. And if we need somebody to come over here and help out in another department or do something that's not a part of their job responsibilities, it's all a team. And so it's been cool. I feel fortunate. Like I said, the reason I'm here in Branson is because of my family and my family business, or else I'd probably be somewhere else. But it's cool. It's a really cool brand. It's a cool opportunity. And so that's what I've been doing, exploring that.
Every time I see you post a new product, I'm like, what do I always text? I'm like, yo, when's my package coming in, Avery? So I'm putting you live on blast. When should I be expecting my Dingman accessories, gear, shoes? When should I
I'll
be
put you on
expecting?
blast too. I'll put you on blast at the same time. I'll get you the Dingman care package, belts, shoes, whatever, whenever you come to the box, Branson.
Woo!
Okay.
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 Can we shake on it? Can we shake on it?
Right here.
Let's go.
Before. Okay. So whenever you come down here, I got you covered. All right.
Hey, easy money. We're gonna make that happen for sure, brother. Avery, thank you
So here's
so
here's
much for your
here's a few things.
time, bro.
Here's a few things. I've got a couple for you. All
Uh,
right. I made a note of some things I thought was funny, and I want you to pick one of them for us to talk about. Okay.
okay, all right.
Okay. So I'm going to list off a bunch of things, and then we're going to talk about it for a few minutes, and then I know it's late over where you are, so we'll get off the
Yeah.
pot.
I was literally about to sign out, but I love that you're extending the pod an extra 5, 10 minutes. Let's get it done. Let's do it.
Okay. So first, team taxed, just that whole origin. Okay. Ross at Club Hurricane and being hungover at Atlantis the next day.
Uh-huh.
Ethan kissing Chat's grandma on the neck.
Uh-huh.
The Jones premiere. I know you're saving that for the Jones pod, but the Jones premiere practice the next day, getting called off early. And then Mac's very subtle way of saying, "I'm going to kick your guys' ass that didn't play 25 minutes the next day." Oh, and then big country Jeff Grosell cursing around kids whenever we had practice.
Okay, this is so funny because half of the things that you mentioned, I actually have on the already.
I know. I made
I
a list of things.
no. So let's talk about Team Taxed because look, this is one of my favorite stories. So for those of you that don't know, it's about to be two-a-days, Avery's freshman year, I believe. Nike ID had the Kobe 8s, I think it was at that point, or Kobe 6, 7s, I'm not sure. But one of the Kobe pairs was on Nike ID, and you could obviously personalize your shoe. Avery orders a royal blue, white, and neon shoe that he can
Neon
personalize
light green.
on the back of neon green, sorry, did I say neon blue? Neon green. On the back of it, he puts on Team Taxed, and everybody was like, "What?" So
What are you
Avery,
doing? It was team on the left, taxed on the right heel.
you're the
Yeah.
originator of Team Taxed. You're the captain of Team Taxed. Please explain to the world what taxed means for you and why you made it such an expression that I still personally use to this day. Everyone that plays around you, I'm sure, still use it in their speech pattern.
Everybody
And there's
uses it.
another thing about the speech pattern that you have that we're going to talk about as soon as you answer this. So go ahead.
So Team Taxed evolved because I got to Creighton and I'm used to the high school basketball lifestyle. I get to Creighton and they're putting us through the ringer, just
Right.
weights and conditioning and pickup and everything. And then you get into season, you don't have time to hardly breathe. I mean, we're busy from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. every single day. And so I was tired all the time. I was exhausted. And I literally felt like I was a zombie at class every day. And so I was like, oh my God. And so for some reason I started saying like, bro, Jahenns, I'm taxed.
I'm
I got nothing
taxed.
in the tank today. Like that's it, taxed. So then I said team tax on those shoes whenever I never played in them, but I wore them in practice. And I said team taxed. And everybody thought it was hilarious, and everybody still hits me with that. Doug and you and Zach and TC and everybody still says team tax. I'm taxed. So that's kind of where it originated. It was exhausting, and I was always exhausted. And so I mean, I just like even walking upstairs during the day, I was like my legs, like I was just tired all the time. And so
Right.
that's kind of how the origin of the team tax.
So you also had a bunch of different phrases to explain how taxed you were. One of my favorite ones was "I'm running on E."
Fumes, brother. I'm taxed. Oh my goodness.
Another thing that I remember you kept saying is oh, you could be at 100% going into old gym as soon as you walk up that spiral staircase. What happens to you, Avery?
Dude, Old Gym is the most depressing building in America. People like if you walk into Old Gym, like you need to like pop an antidepressant because that place is terrible. And sometimes I look at, and this might be my selfish nature, but sometimes I look at these guys on the team and I'm like, they don't know what it's like to show up at Old Gym every day, no windows, no nothing, go to the locker room. You know, it's cold in there. It's usually like rainy and snowy in Omaha. You stumble into Old Gym, you go in the locker room, get changed for practice. Your body is like achy from the day before and cold. And then you watch film next door with a like a TV that I have up right here, just like a little TV. And then you walk up the spiral stair. You go upstairs to practice. A little rinky dink, like it could have given out at any moment. And so you walk up that spiral staircase, and then you're there at the Old Gym. They had the windows that couldn't let light in, and the floors were basically concrete with like laminate floors on top. So like your knees would. It was Old Gym. Like we came from the mud, coming from Old Gym. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and I feel bad for you and
I was
Ethan.
gonna say you had that one year when you practiced at championship. How much of an upgrade was that?
I
How
feel
fortunate are the boys right now that they have championship center?
I feel bad for you guys because you guys like were the you guys like helped pioneer, like lead the way from like taking Creighton from a mid major to like a high major. And we got this, like, I think it was supposed to be $15 million facility and it went up to 17 million. They went over budget and it was insane. And so I went from that to waking up at Opus and walking across the street to Championship Center. And it was
Right.
unbelievable. It was so cool. And it was the coolest experience ever. And now these guys get 4 years there. It's obviously a good recruiting tool, but I feel terrible for you guys because it's like, come on, like, couldn't you guys at least get 1 year in there? It was amazing.
I take full advantage of it when I'm back in Omaha. So I'm not complaining anymore. The years that I spent in Old Gym has paid off, and now I get to chill at Championship Center in the summertime when I get back there and I train. So, hey, it wasn't meant to be for us. I think it was supposed to open my senior year, but unfortunately they couldn't get it done on time. It'd be like that sometimes, but I'm very fortunate. Like I get back in the summertime, me and Coach Mack are still cool. I still have access to the gym and Ben is still there as a trainer, so he helps me out a bunch. And then Coach Bailey was there. They got a new strength conditioning guy now, but Coach Bailey was there to help me out and help me get stronger. So, I mean, I say that again. Sorry.
Is Bailey still there? Is he
Uh,
still
I'm I'm
at the?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure right
Yeah,
now, but yeah,
that's my guy. I love Coach Bailey. Great guy.
I love Coach Bailey too. But yeah, we got to wrap it up, Avery. It looks like you're gonna have to come back and do a part two, Avery Dingman part two on whatever number episode it's gonna be.
I feel like we were just getting warmed up. I feel like we finally just got the rust off, and we, like as Mac would say, we got the kinks out, we got the rust off, and, get the lungs burning, and
Right.
like we could keep rolling for a couple more hours. But I know it's probably, what time is it where you're at?
It's 12:37 a.m. right now,
Yeah,
so
and you got.
a little bit past bedtime.
I know I'm being selfish. I want to keep talking. I know we haven't been talking for a while, and I told you that. I literally, when you texted me and said that you wanted to do this pod, I almost FaceTimed you, and I said, you know what? We haven't FaceTimed in a while. I'm going to save it all for the pod to make it organic, and like we haven't talked on the FaceTime for a couple months, which is rare. And so anyway, I miss you. I've told you this a
Yeah,
million
bro.
times. if and when I get married, you're going to be up there with me. You're my guy. Honored to be on the pod. I can't wait to see you again. I hope we can hammer out the Ozarks again this year.
I'm here for all of that, bro. I'm writing down on my notepad right now that I need to invite you back for part two because you mentioned about nine to 10 stories there that we couldn't really get to, but we definitely are gonna have to get to it one day.
Okay, so for part two, we're going to skip the basketball talk at the beginning. It will be on a day that there wasn't even a game. And we're just going to bring up stories from the past because we have hundreds of them. And I have
Let's do it.
I've got a whole list of things right here that we didn't even get to. We can
You're
spend
coming
30
more prepared than the host, brother. You're coming more prepared than the host. That's funny.
Yeah, we need to do a part two. Again, thank you for having me on. I know it was a little later than I would have wanted to, but I appreciate it. And I love those guys that came before me. Obviously, Doug and was it Ethan, Chat, and then Damien came before me. So anyway, you need to get some rest, brother. Good to see you. Talk again soon.
We're going to wrap this up. This has been another Welcome to the J podcast, episode 5 with my boy Avery Dingman. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network. Follow all the good stuff that we're doing. There's a lot of cool content from other guys representing their alma maters as well. Avery Dingman, man, we're going to catch up, bro. Miss you, dog. Stay safe, obviously. And I can't wait to see you again. Go Jays. Stay safe, everyone.
All right, man. Love you, man. Take care.
Love you, brother.